There it is, folks. The big conference admits it. They broke the rules. And another potential redshirt for USC.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thanks for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network your first listen every single day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you're downloading this podcast, show's always free. And you know my motto, I always appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Look, I know the last thing we all remember is what happened last week, that goal line stand. USC made the stop. Should have had the ball back at the 1 yard line or half yard line or wherever. Well, following Tuesday's practice, the first thing Coach Riley addressed was that 4th and goal overrule. I guess that's the best way to describe it. On the field, USC stopped the ball. First down, Trojans going the other direction. Lincoln Riley said that there was a lot of conversation with the conference on several plays late in the Minnesota game. He said the word from the conference was that the replay official thought, and I emphasize the word thought, the Minnesota quarterback scored. Okay. The replay official thought that the Minnesota quarterback scored. And that was enough for them to overturn the call that was on the field. Let me give you the exact quote from Coach Riley. I've not been given any explanation why we ignored the part of the rules that obviously state that to overturn something, that it has to be absolutely, completely clear cut. There can be no doubt about what happened. That part was ignored, which is unfortunate for us. In my opinion, there is no way that can be overturned. The rules are pretty clear, close quote. And again, Riley said that the conference agreed. They actually agreed with him that it was not indisputable. Let that sink in. They admitted they messed up. USC got screwed. So there you have it. The big conference admits they gave USC the proctology finger. If you've seen Fletch, or if you're my age, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But apparently right now there's nothing they can do about it. Game's in the books. Minnesota wins. USC doesn't. They literally ignored the rule that there has to be indisputable evidence to overturn a call on the field. And they admitted it. I really thought the Pac-12 was the dregs when it came to officiating. The big conference. They said, hold my beer, Mark. Watch what we can do. Yeah, well, here's your beer back. Stop. And I get it. It doesn't change anything. But I really do appreciate, Coach Riley's candor after the feedback he received. But watch. Because of what he said now, he'll get fined. I'm being sarcastic. I think he's okay. I think they'll be okay with him passing along their faux pas. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. Oops, we made a mistake. My bad. It's kind of like Kyle Ford going to UCLA for a year. I'm tripping. Look, again, I want that goal line stand as much as anyone else. But let's be honest, even if they were given the goal line stand, the game's still tied at that point, right? So what? USC gets the ball at the 1 yard line, half yard line, the 1 inch line. I'm sure that really improves USC's chances. That's that particular situation. At least on the kickoff, Zachariah Fair caught it. Ball to 25 instead of the 1. It was that positive, even though you're down 7. But it was, Coach wasn't saying that's why we lost. That's not why USC lost the game. And he wanted to make clear that everyone in the media understood that. He wanted to make sure that everyone understood USC had plenty of chances to put that game away. And he's right. Quote, it's not the reason that we lost the game. We had plenty of other opportunities. And I'm not sitting here blaming the officials saying, well, they did a bad job and that's why we didn't win the game. Had nothing to do with it. That's part of football. It's part of road football. It's unfortunate, yes, but obviously a lot of things we can do better and need to do better and expect to do better going forward, close quote. So, yeah, obviously the last thing we remember, the bad call, goal line stand, USC ends up losing. But if we're being honest with ourselves, USC had plenty of opportunities to put that game away, to do better. Play calling, execution on the field, everything. So we're going to put that behind us. We finally got the explanation. USC got screwed. Everybody understands that now. Minnesota fan, take the W. It was gifted. It's been how long since you had the one against USC? 1955 or whatever year it was. You're welcome. Go away. Continue to watch the show, but I don't want to hear from you. Unless you're going to say, we're sorry, you're right. That's the only thing I want to hear from you right now. But again, I appreciate you watching the show. On another serious note, look, everyone already knows, especially if you watch Locked on USC every day like you should be, Rajon Davis, linebacker, he's choosing to redshirt this year. And he actually has one more game in the bag. If he wants to play one more game this year, he could. I'm not sure if he's going to do it during the regular season. We'll see what happens come postseason play. Speaking of redshirting linebackers, Eric Gentry is out indefinitely. And Coach Riley did say that a redshirt is, quote, always a possibility, just the way, with the way college football is right now. So after practice, when he was talking with the media, he said, Eric is ramping up with what he's able to do right now. But as far as full-time participation in practice, that ain't happening at the moment. He said, no decision has been made yet, and they will continue to evaluate. From what we can tell, if you're watching where Eric came off the field, after he came off the field, that particular play looked like he landed on his neck, head, shoulder. So, and look, we need to be careful with those things, right? Coach when he was pressed on it, asking, well, what's going on with Eric? What's the status? He was kind of coy. And he said, let me give you the quote. It's a day-to-day thing, but he's making progress. I think it's always a possibility, referring to redshirting. You look across the country right now, you never know. No final decision has been made. We're going to keep evaluating just how he's feeling, how he's progressing. It's the way he said that. Look, Coach Riley will always keep his cards close to the vest when it comes to injuries. But this time he agreed that when he was asked, if we were asked, can we classify Eric as indefinite? And he said, that's a good way. That's a good way to classify Eric right now, indefinitely. That's how long he'll be out. And I'm not questioning Eric's injury or the severity. He's very passionate. Eric's been very vocal how much fun he's having playing this year. And that a lot of that obviously has to do with the defensive coaching staff. And it's shown up on the field. Eric has literally been one of the best linebackers in the country all year. And you don't think his presence wasn't missed against Minnesota? Hell yeah, it was. He's one of those guys who can go sideline to sideline in the second half. Remember, that's what Minnesota did. They went a little bit more horizontal with the screen passes. Eric can get out there and help cover that. So I'm wondering how fast he'll heal, again, because it's indefinite right now. And, Coach Riley alluded to just how things are kind of playing out in college football right now with redshirting. I'm wondering, if USC beats Penn State Saturday, will Eric want to get back and help the team? Or if USC happens to lose, God forbid, does a 3-3 USC team going to Maryland the following week, does that kind of just button up the red shirt? Does that make the decision for Eric? That's kind of what I meant by Coach Riley was kind of coy. We'll see how he feels. Something to keep an eye on. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying Eric is going to quit on the team. That's not what I'm saying. I've explained why Rajon Davis is choosing the red shirt, not getting the reps playing linebacker. He was only doing special teams. He wants to get some more film with him playing at the second level. Eric is obviously dealing with an injury. It's not like these two guys are Bear Alexander. They renegotiated their NIL during the spring, sat out, and then decided, I'll show up in fall camp and I'll give you some effort, but not a full effort. It's not like that. It's nothing like that. And then there is one other injury note update that I can bring up to speed on since Coach Riley spoke about it after practice. Lake McCree, tight end. He's ahead of schedule. Quote, he's kind of a pro when it comes to this kind of stuff, rehab. That was from Coach Riley. So we'll see. Well, I don't know when Lake will play again this year. He's ahead of schedule. That's a good thing. Again, I think it really depends on where this team is in a few weeks. Right now, if you can get to 4-2, you still got a lot to play for. The playoffs are still a possibility. 3-3, like I said on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC. It's probably time to start preparing for bowl season and getting the younger guys ready. Hey, NFL fans, start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You're watching one game and you get a hunch. What's going on in another game? Well, you know that place where you're placing your bets at FanDuel? You can check out highlights. Yeah, you can check out the latest stats. You can check out a whole bunch more than just that. And if you've never used FanDuel before, here's your chance. Let me tell you why you need to go run on over and create an account. You're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. All you got to do is place a $5 bet. If that $5 bet loses, you still got $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Hello, that's FanDuel.com. So, again, practice Tuesday. Teams in full pads. Getting ready for Penn State this weekend coming up. 12:30 kickoff, LA Coliseum. Do you have your tickets? Sold out. Coach Riley, after practice, mentioned that he loves USC's running game, and especially what Woody Marks has brought to the team. He's just such a quiet professional, I guess is how I would describe him. Comes to work every day, does what he's asked to do, what's anticipated of him. He's been a leader in the locker room. And that's what they needed from Woody. Because the rest of that running back room, pretty gunk, right? So not only is Woody leading by example and helping the younger guys get ready, he's producing on the field too. And because of that, Coach Riley was asked, would it make sense to lean into the run game more down the stretch? Where have we heard that before? Right here on Locked on USC. In fact, I asked Coach Riley about that after the game. And when he was being asked that question after practice today, he was nodding along. And before the question was even being done asked, he was like, yep. Here's his answer. Yeah, no question. We did a lot of that the other night. We ran it a lot. We ran it well. The most fun time to call plays is when you have a great run game. Close the quote. So here's my rhetorical question. When does the fun time start, Coach? I know a lot of you think I'm being ultra harsh, uber critical on Coach Riley. Remember, a lot of this is tongue-in-cheek, a little bit of sarcasm. There's a lot of truth embedded in there, but I like Coach Riley. I'm not calling for him to be fired. Now, I do think he can make an adjustment. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. But first, and again, I've been questioning his play calling, and I get the guys on the field need to start making plays. Stop with these drop passes. They're turning the ball over way too many times. They've got 9 already so far. Too many penalties. And all of a sudden, they need to tackle better in certain crucial situations. Like in the open field. You got to stop giving up these explosive run plays. So should Coach Riley give up play calling duties? That's what I was alluding to just a second ago. You don't have to wait till the next segment. Just have to wait a couple of seconds. I wrote about this over on wearesc.com. It was my Tuesday Thoughts article. I think the next step in Coach Riley's growth process as a head coach is letting someone else have the fun and call the plays on offense. And this topic has actually come up before with Lincoln Riley. Just this summer, he was on Sirius XM radio. When will Coach Riley, give up the play calling duties? Just focus on being a head coach because it's got so many different responsibilities. You're thinking about so many, and it'll probably help him with clock management too, which is my biggest pet peeve about Coach. During the summer, he said he's not ready yet, but he's open to doing whatever is in the best interest of the program. Quote, I don't necessarily want to have to do it, but I'll always do whatever I think is best for the program to help us win. I've given full-time quarterback duties to Coach Heward, which was a big step for me and allowed me to be more present in other areas. I'm not quite ready to give up the whole thing. Okay, that's a really telling sign. Coach Riley loves being around the quarterbacks. He likes calling plays. He took his first baby step. He said, all right, Coach Luke Heward, you can have the quarterback room. And that way I can kind of meander, focus on other position groups on the team. Now, one reason why I think Coach Riley won't let go is because he likes to be closer to the players. He doesn't want to be like that Nick Saban type of figurehead. The guy who's just not that guy. If you're listening, you didn't see me just crossing my arms and furrowing my brow and just kind of looking like a head coach looks at a player who did something wrong. The dad look. So he continued, quote, I don't ever want to take me too far away from the game and from the players, where you just sit up on your perch. That's not really me. So we'll see how it evolves, but not ready to give up play calling yet. That was back in July. We are now 1 week into October. So if Coach Riley needs some evidence that maybe it is time to turn the page, hire an offensive coordinator, play caller. Here's some evidence. Check this out. This isn't a good number. This isn't a good trend. Scoring fewer than 20 points in a game with Lincoln Riley at calling the plays, it's not an anomaly. It's happened in the past. His Oklahoma team did it twice in the 2021 season. And after that season, he ended up becoming USC's head coach. In 2022, the Trojans scored 17 points one time. That was on the road at Oregon State. USC won that game. But there is a trend starting to form. USC has now scored fewer than 30 points in 5 of its last 8 games. Okay, the Trojans had done it just 3 times in the first 24 games with Coach Riley as their head coach. Interesting, right? Last year, we know USC finished the regular season 7-5. They won the Holiday Bowl, finished 8-5. They did that 7-5 season. You had Caleb Williams, he returned. And because of that 7-5 season, Coach Riley said, you know what? Defense matters. And this is why Antonlynn is now your defensive coordinator. I think if Coach Riley wants what's best for his coaching career, and, and more importantly, for this team, he needs to reconsider giving up calling the plays, and let somebody else be the offensive coordinator. Being a head coach has enough responsibilities. There's a reason why the best programs out there hire the best coordinators available. He got the best defensive coordinator out there, one of them. I'd have to imagine USC plus Lincoln Riley with his innovative, creative offensive play calling mind, and some, I don't know, young, hotshot, up and coming offensive coordinator out there could look at that and say, hey, you know what? That's a pretty attractive situation that you got going over there at USC. They're always going to bring in quarterback talent. They're always going to bring in skilled talent. Why not? Right? And before we close this segment out, segue into the next segment, think about that. I've been pointing out how players have been pressing. Players aren't the only ones who press when things aren't going as anticipated. Coaches do it too. I'm wondering if Coach Riley is pressing a little bit. He can't forget about the last play, and that's dictating and having an effect on his next play call. A lot of that goes hand in hand. They work together. But, is he dwelling on it rather than thinking, all right, maybe if I had just lined it up a little bit differently? Again, there's so much nuance involved. I think maybe going into next year, Coach Riley might consider it. Again, he's always open to doing what's best for the team. Sometimes it takes people a little bit longer to get there. I can be stubborn as well. In fact, I am a very stubborn person. That's why I think I understand where Coach Riley comes from a lot of the time. We don't like to admit we're wrong. It kind of has to slap us in the face, and we have to admit it. Oh, we were wrong. Don't mind that red mark on my face. So there you go. We'll see what happens. Again, USC faces Penn State this Saturday at the Coliseum. It's going to be another chess match. This fight. Has USC already been checkmated? When was the last time you went to a USC game, concert, comedy show, any type of live event that you like to attend? Game Time. That's where you need to go when you want to get tickets. Because they have this new feature called Game Time Picks. It's going to make sure you're getting the best tickets at the best price, and they make it really easy for you. They've got this feature that you can check out before you can see your seat, see your view from your seat before you check out. That's my favorite feature. And with that Game Time Picks thing, it's only going to show you the best seats. You're not going to have to rifle through like 1,000 different views. That's pretty cool. So you can get in and out quickly, and you can get a great price. And if you haven't been to a game yet, to a USC game, this one's sold out. Game Time has tickets available. Go check it out. With the Game Time guarantee, there's no risk. Again, you'll know what you're going to see when you sit down because you're going to see it before you check out. And Game Time gives you a best price guarantee. If you find tickets in the same row and section for less, Game Time's going to credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. How is USC going to beat Penn State the way USC's offensive line is playing? Or at least the way they've been playing recently. I know everyone's first thought is, well, just keep running the ball and pass protect better. That's the obvious answer, right? That's my first thought. But here's the thing. It's a lot easier said than done considering the team that's coming into LA this weekend. Penn State has one of the best run defenses in the country. And they also know how to pressure the quarterback. So USC likes to run the ball. They do it really well. But they also allow their quarterback to get pressured a lot. Checkmate. Look, Penn State's defensive line, they're not big. They're probably in a very similar size to USC's, but they're playing like they're bigger. They're playing like they're the boss. They've got defensive ends, Abdul Carter and Dennis Sutton, 6'3", 252 pounds, and 6'5", 266 pounds. And then at defensive tackle, the Nittany Lions, they like to rotate Zane Durant, 6'1", 288 pounds, Dion J. Thomas, 6'1", 305 pounds, Keziah Izard, 6'3", 305 pounds, Hakeem Beeman, 6'3", 296, and Alonzo Ford Jr., 6'2", 319. He's the biggest one of them all as far as weight is concerned. But that entire group, not being the biggest group out there, they find a way to get into the backfield. They get it done. Penn State is tied for number 24 in the country in sacks per game and TFLs per game. Dennis Sutton and Carter have been, respectively, 18 and 16 quarterback pressures. All right? 34 between their two interior guys. Yeah. Oh, so I'm sorry. Those are their defensive ends. I apologize. That means Mason Murphy, Elijah Page, you got your hands full. But they also are getting pressure up the middle from Durant. So far, he's got 12 pressures, and that actually ranks second on their team. He also has 2.5 sacks. Those 12 pressures, he's done that in 167 snaps at defensive tackle, which is, for comparison's sake, that's 3 more than USC's Anthony Lucas, who has that many pressures, but it's taken him 193 snaps. So, yeah, I would say that Durant's been pretty efficient. Now, as far as USC's rushing attack, I mentioned it. Penn State's really good against the run. Well, they have the number 4 rushing defense in the country. They're actually allowing less than 2.5 yards per carry, 2.47. So look, USC, they have to prove they can run the ball against Penn State. Because if they can't, there's no way Coach Riley's going to have any fun calling plays. None whatsoever. Let's not make any mistake about this. This is going to be another physical game for USC. And I think that's okay. USC is probably more smash mouth now than they are that explosive, wide open offense. At least that's how they're playing. And we know the Trojans aren't afraid of a fist fight. Penn State's head coach, James Franklin, he talked about his team's physicality this year compared to years past. Quote, I think we're a more physical team than we have been in the past. It's something that we've worked really hard at promoting. I think the guys are having fun with it right now, and it's growing. USC is too. Remember, USC was the more physical team when they played against LSU. They won that fist fight. And I think it's fair to say that USC did, for the most part, they were physical with Michigan. Remember, they were winning. And, yeah, it's just a handful of those explosive plays. Coach Riley said 2 plays away from being 5-0. He's still holding on to that, by the way. He was asked again after practice. Look, I get it where he's coming from. That's what coaches do. So, yeah, USC was physical against Michigan. We know they were physical against LSU. It took them a little while to get started against Wisconsin, but they dominated the second half of that game. Minnesota is the one where you're like, well, maybe it was a draw, but we know Minnesota won that game. They were winning way too many of those battles in the trenches. So how is this game going to play out? Again, it's it's not Michigan, but Penn State does like to run the ball. They're averaging just under 23 pass attempts per game. That's 123rd in the nation. They run the ball just under 41 times per game. And as far as yards per carry, 5.36. That's top 25. Make no mistake, the Nittany Lions are going to be just fine leaning on that offensive line and that running game. It's going to be up to USC to match up physically up front, stop the run, make Penn State throw the ball more than they want to. We're going to see who wins this chess match. We know it's going to be a physical contest. Here's what we know. Here's what I know. James Franklin has a history. He also has a hard time staying disciplined, not doing dumb things at the end of games. I mean, remember that Rose Bowl game? I do. Young coaches have a way of doing things that they shouldn't be doing. We're going to see who's learned their lessons. We'll see if Lincoln Riley is ready to lean into that run game. 3rd and short. Do it. Show me. Show everyone that you learned from what happened last week. All right. I'll be back with another episode of Locked on USC tomorrow, 5 times a week, every day. That's what we do here. If you are watching on YouTube, you're not a subscriber yet. How come? Click that red subscribe button, smash that thumbs up. Both really help the show. Don't forget to hit that bell notification button. That way you do not miss an episode. And when you're done making Locked on USC your first listen every day, get on over there to wearesc.com. We've got some great writing going on over there. Myself, Eric, Chris Harledge, Scott Schrader's got the recruiting information. We got a 50% off special right now. Use the code FIGHTON. Until then, everyone, you know what to do.